If you want to perform like an elite athlete, you need to train like one. Whether you're a junior athlete with big dreams, an emerging athlete looking to elevate your performance, or a recreational competitor chasing your personal bests, understanding how athletes actually train can transform your approach to performance. My name is Nils Hestermann, and over the past 2 decades, I've worked with athletes across every level, from 10-year-olds just starting their journey to Olympic competitors. And what I've learned is that increasing performance isn't just about doing more. It's about training smarter, with purpose, and with a system that addresses every piece of the puzzle. Today, I'm going to break down the 5 core components that make up true athletic training and show you how to structure them in a way that builds explosive power while keeping you moving well for years to come. The first component is about how you approach movement preparation. Here, you need to prepare your body for what's coming and address the specific limitation you have in that moment. So before you start your session, assess what your body needs. If you're a runner who just came off a track session the night before and your hips are tight, you need to address that tightness before the next session in order to move efficiently. But the key is to be specific about what you are addressing. If you know from previous experience or testing that your hip stability is poor when you run, don't just stretch your hips. Use that movement preparation time to work on functional hip strength. This is super important if you want to avoid generic warm-up routines and rather focus on addressing what you specifically need. Whether that's mobility work for areas that are tight, activation work for muscles that aren't firing properly, or skill work for movements you need to improve. The movement preparation you choose should be individualized based on what you did yesterday, what you're about to do today, and what your specific limitations are. This approach is what allows you to train consistently at high intensities without breaking down. The second component of your training is to include sport-specific and individualized work. This is where you bridge the gap between general preparation and the specific demands of your sport or your goals. Now, sport-specific training isn't just about copying movements or positions. It's about preparing your body for the same physiological demands your sport places on it. So if you're working on force development, your sport-specific work should mimic the positions you're in when you play or perform. But more importantly, it should prepare your muscles, your joints, and energy system to handle those exact stresses. But the individualized work is where you address your deficits. If you know you can't produce force quickly, then you need to work on being more reactive in applying force at a faster rate. Here's how you approach this. Optimize every piece of the puzzle. Most people try to do everything at a good or bad level, but you need to identify your weakness and address them systematically. You also need to be adaptable based on your sport. If you play a sport with weekly competitions, your training week looks different than if you only compete a few times a year. Your system needs to give you the flexibility to adapt based on your sport, your competition schedule, your age, and your competition level. Whether you're a weekend warrior or an elite athlete, you should work off the same system. The differentiator is that elite athletes focus on the minor detail, whereas recreational athletes might just need to show up consistently and follow the basic principles. The third component is your main training block, where you develop strength, power, and velocity. For optimal development, you need to structure your training into strength, power, and velocity focused sessions, each designed to target specific physical outcomes. When you're working on power, you need to move fast and find a load that allows you to move fast. For strength development, you're working on absolute strength, something you can do at your maximum with no time constraint. But you shouldn't just focus on getting stronger in isolation. You need to look at your sporting movements and your limitations, making it individualized while not forgetting the basic principles. These sessions can be organized around upper or lower body emphasis and include supporting exercises for core stability, rotation, and anti-rotation, ensuring balanced and transferable athletic development. The key difference from regular gym training is that everything you do has to transfer to improve performance. You're not just trying to get stronger in the gym, you're trying to get stronger in ways that matter for how you move and perform in your sport. After your strength or power work, this is where you place your energy system development when integrating it into a strength and power session, which is component 4. This is cardio-based training, but it needs to be much more sophisticated than just running on a treadmill. You should focus on either aerobic or anaerobic work. and it needs to be related to either your sport or limitations you have. If your recovery is an area that needs improvement, you can incorporate interval training that replicates that recovery demand of your sport. For example, performing repeated high-intensity sprints with controlled recovery periods to train your ability to reproduce maximal efforts with limited rest, just as you would in competition. This approach enhances metabolic recovery, lactate clearance, and repeated sprint ability, key qualities in high-performance environments. Here's what you need to understand. You must know your sport. Whether you are working with different athletic events or team sports that are played week to week, you need sporting knowledge, which comes back to competition knowledge. How is competition done in your sport? Because eventually, at competition, you need to be at 100%. So that's where your planning and long-term approach comes in. If you're training for a specific goal, there are certain milestones you need to understand and hit to get there from a physical perspective. Your energy system work should build the engine that supports your sport-specific demands while also addressing any limitations in your conditioning that might be holding you back. Last up, component number 5, end with recovery and regeneration. You should always finish with regeneration and recovery work, which prepares you for whatever comes next. You want to walk out in a neutral state, ready for either your next training session or going back to your technical training. This isn't just stretching. You need to manage the stress and fatigue from your session and prepare your body for recovery. You should monitor your stress and fatigue levels and be reactive to how you're feeling on a weekly basis. You might have planned a hard week or an easy week, but you need to be willing to adjust that based on how you're responding to make sure you're on track to peak at the right time. You also need to understand what qualities cause what type of stress and what stresses take time to recover from. For example, if you have an important competition on Saturday, doing a high-intensity, high-volume session on Friday night might compromise your Saturday performance. Now, to make this system work, every session you do should be holistic. You need a dynamic structure that touches on everything and creates progress over time. Through this type of training structure, you'll be learning to understand your body and take ownership of your development process. However, what's crucial is that your approach needs to be both evidence-based and individualized. You should stay informed about sports science and research, but combine that with practical experience and what works for your specific situation. This is especially important when you consider that not all athletes are the same, even if they are the same age. For example, if you're a younger athlete, one thing you must understand is the difference between biological and chronological age. Your physical maturation matters more than your actual age when it comes to how you should train. Two 13-year-olds might be completely different stages of their development, which means they need completely different training approaches. If you're a junior athlete pre-peak height velocity, it might serve you better to focus on motor skill learning, like being able to jump, run, and land well, change direction, develop general movement skills, as well as learning good gym-based movement patterns. Can you squat well? Can you use your core effectively? How well do you actually coordinate your limbs? As you progress through stages of growth, we start to shift the focus towards nurturing growth from a physical perspective, ramping up development while carefully managing recovery and injury prevention. But regardless of your age or development stage, there are constants that support everything else: nutrition and recovery. These aren't separate components you add on later. They are the foundation that everything else is built on. There's no good or bad time to address nutrition because it's the basis of being able to develop, get stronger, get more powerful, and recover faster. This is why you need to take a truly holistic approach to your development. Don't just focus on the physical training in the gym. You should integrate proper nutrition guidance, injury prevention strategies, and mental performance support, whatever you need to develop and get better. This means strengthening your support network and addressing everything that impacts your performance, whether that's strength and conditioning, sports science, nutrition, injury management, or sports psychology. Build a team that communicates well and puts you, the athlete, at the center of every decision. So there you have it, the components that make up true athletic training. The key takeaway is this: performance training isn't about doing more, it's about training smarter. It's about understanding that every component serves a purpose. And when you put them all together systematically, you create something much more powerful than the sum of its parts. Remember, a well-rounded athlete is someone who can match the demands of their sport, who can adapt and problem solve, who knows their body and their capabilities. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens through intelligent, systematic training that addresses every piece of the puzzle. If you're serious about training like an athlete and want to experience what this holistic approach can do for your performance, there are resources and programs available that can help guide you on this journey. The key is finding the right expertise and support to help you apply these principles to your specific situation and goals.